All right, I have 7:01 tonight, so we're going to get the meeting started. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with our pledge allegiance, a moment of silence. If I get everyone right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone. My name is Susan Paul. I'm the vice president from last year, and we will actually get started here with our meeting with the student spotlight.
Good evening and welcome. To introduce myself, my name is Carrie Hinkle, principal of Kouts Elementary School. Before getting started, I'd like to express my gratitude to Dr. Case and the school board for allowing us to showcase Kouts Elementary School this evening. I'd like to begin by highlighting two of our students who did an exemplary job on the 4th grade flag education program sponsored by the American Legion. Additionally, I would like to thank the 4th grade teachers, Ms. Sikowski and Mrs. Miller, for providing their students the opportunity to participate in this program each school year. All 4th grade students at Kouts Elementary School participated in this educational program and were assessed on their knowledge and mastery of program objectives at the conclusion of the training. Braden Nelson in Ms. Sikowski's class and Scarlett Medley in Mrs. Miller's class both received perfect scores on their flag education program test. After reviewing the test the students took, I learned two things. First, I learned these students worked hard to earn perfect scores. They were able to answer questions such as where the American flag was first flown, when the Star-Spangled Banner was written, and who nicknamed our flag Old Glory. Secondly, I humbly learned that I could benefit from participating in the flag education program next school year. At this time, I would like to welcome Braden Nelson and his teacher, Ms. Sikowski, to come forward. Braden, here is your award from the American Legion in recognition. Oh, I am so sorry. Minor detail. Braden, here is your award from the American Legion in recognition of the effort and dedication you demonstrated in receiving a perfect score on your flag education program test. A portion of this assessment required students to write an essay in response to the prompt, "What do you think about when you see our country's flag?" Braden has chosen to read his essay for us this evening, so I will momentarily turn the floor over to Braden. Do you want me to hold that for you? Here. Thank you.
I think about how people are free the USA from the British, and we have all these freedoms like being able to vote and worship, to do stuff that we want to do.
Thank you, Braden. And now I would like to welcome Scarlett Medley and her teacher, Mrs. Miller, to come forward. Scarlett, there is your award from the American Legion in recognition of the effort and dedication you demonstrated in receiving a perfect score on your flag education program test. Scarlett has also chosen to read her essay, written in response to the prompt, "What do you think about when you see our country's flag?" At this time, I will turn the floor over to Scarlett.
When I see our country's flag, I think of many things. What are they? Continue listening to learn about these wonderful things. The first thing that comes to mind is our country's independence. That means that we don't need people or a person to tell us what to do or help us. We got this independence during the Revolutionary War, where the colonists fought to be free from the British. As they did, they fought under different flags, which reminds me of the next thing. That was my first thought, which was our independence. The next thing I think of is our individual liberty. This means we all have our own liberties. When I think of liberty, I think of the Statue of Liberty, don't you? It was a gift from France which resembles our individual liberty. This is something we should be proud of. We should be proud of all these things. Speaking of we, let's go to the next one. This is my second thought, individual liberty. My third thought was our unity as a nation. This means we are a team and we should stick together no matter what. And this is one that we should all remember every day and everywhere. We are all one nation and should be proud of it. Even when the United States is going through the worst of times, we are all one. We are always together. We are the USA. That was my third thought, our unity as a nation. In conclusion, many things can come to mind when looking at our flag. Some bad things, some good. But these are the things that I think of and that we should all think of.
Good job, Scarlett. I would like to personally commend both Braden and Scarlett, not only for their academic achievement, but also for their emphatic yeses when I asked whether they'd like to read their essays aloud for you here tonight. Braden and Scarlett, you've demonstrated our corporation's core values of effort and determination, and your written essays demonstrate your commitment to the core value of citizenship. Your teachers and I are proud of your achievement. Your eagerness to join us tonight and read your essays aloud demonstrates a level of natural leadership that will serve you well in life. We are extremely proud of you. You have done a fine job representing Couts Elementary School.
And I'd also like on behalf to give this award to for both students, and if you have pictures, there's a good spot, or maybe over by the flag. Have one for Braden. And one for Scarlett. You're welcome. Congratulations.
Yeah, good job.
As many of you know, this is my first year serving as a principal and my first year working at Couts Elementary School. I'm blessed with an amazingly gifted staff with a heart for our students and would like to mention some of our accomplishments so far this school year. We have worked through scheduling issues to streamline and optimize instructional time while aligning our master's schedule with intervention and related arts schedules. With staff input, flexibility, and teamwork, we were able to successfully accomplish this task and began implementing our new schedule school-wide at the start of term 2. Mrs. Sikowski, a 4th grade teacher who is here with us tonight, was recently awarded a grant from the Cheryl Lynn Welter Charitable Foundation, which is provided to serve underprivileged students. Ms. Sikowski is planning on using this grant to make a care closet in her classroom, which will provide her students with the items they may need, such as chapstick, lotion, gloves, extra clothing, and other essential items. Congratulations, Ms. Sikowski, and thank you for the hard work you do in advocating for student success. We have developed and consistently utilized a building leadership team to address and improve upon targeted needs and to effectively increase our intentionality in regards to school, students, and community decision-making, as well as student success. We have recently begun school-wide data tracking and progress monitoring in the area of reading in response to baseline testing, corporation-level data, and state-level data. This will allow us to be more intentional on our instructional path, and I'm looking forward to watching our student growth over time. And finally, despite challenges faced due to transitions presented this school year, I am proud to say that the staff at Couts Elementary School has gracefully and readily not only adapted, but thrived, far surpassing expectations. Our custodial staff, cafeteria staff, bus drivers, maintenance crew, instructional aides, students, parents, teachers, and community have gone above and beyond, and I'm proud to call Couts Elementary School home. I'm both excited and inspired by the talents, determination, and ambition of those who I'm surrounded by each day, and I'm looking forward to further successes second semester. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, I am going to ask Mrs. Carter to come forward so that we can offer the oath of office to the four recently elected school board members, so that we can then go into business.
If Vanessa, Stacia, Natalie, and Audrey could please stand. Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America.
I solemnly swear I support the Constitution of the United States of America,
The Constitution of the State of Indiana.
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
And the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
and the laws of the United States and the State of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute the duties of my office
I may faithfully execute the duties of my office
as a member of this governing body. So help me God.
as a member of this governing body, so help me God.
At this time, I know normally we're going to be going into the election of the different officers, but I know our board president usually offers for the parents and students who presented tonight. You are more than welcome to stay, but we could also do a quick pause if they have homework or want to get to bed early. It is totally your call and your decision. Not a problem. It is a very common occurrence.
All right, moving on to item E, we're going to start with, at this time, we need to select and vote for officers of the 25 calendar school year. So right now, I'm going to open the floor. Are there any nominations for president of the school board?
This is as follows. I would nominate Mr. McFerrin for president of the school board.
Are there any other nominations? Okay. Hearing that there are none, the nominations for office of president is closed. All those in favor of voting Rick McSperrin for office of president, please raise your hand. Are there any opposed? Okay. At this time, Rick McSperrin is president for the 2025 school year.
Thank you. The confidence that placed in me. At this time, we'll continue the nominations for school board officers. And at this time, I open the floor for nominations for the office of vice president.
Mr. McSperrin, I would nominate Mrs. McFalls, who did a good job as vice president last year and only did it for 1 year.
I hear the nomination for Mrs. McFalls, Liz McFalls, for the office of vice president. She's been nominated. Are there any further nominations for the office of vice president? Well, hearing none, the nominations for the office of vice president are closed. All those in favor of Liz McFalls for the office of vice president, please raise your hand. And that vote is 7-0. So congratulations, Mrs. McFalls. I'm sure you're going to do a great job. At this time, I will entertain the nominations for the office of secretary.
Mr. McSperrin, I would nominate Mrs. Terpstra, since I don't want to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Just being honest, transparent.
Are there any, Mrs. Terpstra, Mrs. Stacia Terpstra has been nominated for secretary. Are there further nominations for the office of secretary? Well, hearing none, the nominations for the office of secretary are closed. All those in favor of Stacia Terpstra for the office of secretary, please raise your hand. And looks like that is 7-0. Congratulations, the ayes have it for Mrs. Stacia Terpstra to be secretary of the school board for 2025. The next item on the agenda would be appointments, Dr. Case, for 2025.
At this time, we ask the board to consider nominating and approving Kim Nieves as the treasurer for the school, our deputy treasurer to be Lisa Thompson. And also at this time, under our appointments, we also request that the board approve Lindsay Lewis, Kaminsky, and Jones as the school attorney and Todd Lee as the attorney for our property and real estate.
Do I hear a recommendation?
I just want to hit the grand slam. I move that we approve the appointments for 2025 of Kim Nieves as treasurer, Lisa Thompson as deputy treasurer, and the two law firms that were mentioned.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Is there a second?
Okay.
Second by Mrs. McFalls. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of the appointments for 2025 for treasurer Kim Nieves, for deputy treasurer Lisa Thompson, for corporation law firm Lindsay Lewis, Kaminsky, and Jones LLP, and Todd Lee LLP. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. That motion passes 7-0. This time, one of my favorite parts. Thank you. This time, one of my favorite parts is the opportunity for the public to speak at the school board meeting. certainly want to hear from the community. We'll begin the public comment portion of the meeting. We certainly welcome your comments. However, please note that this is a school board meeting held in public, not a school board meeting held with the public. This distinction means that while we welcome your input, we are here to conduct board business and not answer questions or interact in a back and forth dialogue with the community. Rather, this public comment portion of the meeting provides an opportunity for the community to provide comments on agenda items. Again, please note that the public comments are limited to agenda items only. If you have specific questions, comments, or concerns outside of the agenda, you're encouraged to email Dr. Case or any board member to allow them the opportunity, certainly, to address your concerns. And I'd like to quickly go over a few ground rules before we get started. When called from the public comment sign-up list, please state which agenda item you will be speaking on. Comments should be directed to the board as a whole rather than to any individual member. And each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. And the total time allowed for public comment is 30 minutes. If multiple individuals are here to speak on the same subject, we certainly encourage you to select one representative to speak for the group. Any derogatory remarks or direct disrespect towards any board member, staff, or teacher or student certainly will not be tolerated. In the event of such behavior, you will forfeit your time and may be asked to leave the meeting. Please be aware that personnel matters will not be addressed during this meeting, as discussions of specific employees are not appropriate in a public forum. And we appreciate and thank you for attending and sharing your thoughts with us. So I do have, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individuals who have signed up to speak this evening. First one on the list looks like Lacey Earl. Did I pronounce your name right?
It is. All right, I would like to speak on 2C. I hope I'm not stretching this one here, but I do believe this goes back to financial goals. And also 5B under the additional items. So the first one, I guess easiest would be the additional items. I understand it's going to be discussed tonight. I hope the potential addition of a Couts girls tennis team. I would just like to publicly support that. I am a coach here at Couts, and I think this would be a wonderful addition. We have the facilities. I saw these girls play in open gyms this summer. They're ready. They're prepared. Just because most of them have not played, competitively does not mean they are not ready. I have these girls in class and they are ready to represent Couts very strong. So I very much urge you to support that. The second one, which I probably feel stronger on, is 2C. That is, I'm speaking in regards to an email that the middle school, high school staff received on December 19th, notifying us that our desktop computers would be removed during the summer of 2025. I strongly believe this removal would negatively impact my productivity as a dual credit business teacher on 2 campuses, and it severely increased my workload. I thought maybe it was just me, so I did a casual survey of my counterparts and interviewed over 30 teachers between the 2 campuses I teach at. 98% of those teachers that I talked with agreed that the removal of the desktop computers would negatively affect our ability to perform our jobs. And over 70% admitted that they rarely to never use their Chromebooks. I feel our desktops are a need, not a want. I need my desktop to do my job efficiently. So do my counterparts. A couple of things to prove that. Most of us plug in 4 or more items into our desktop ports. Our Chromebooks only have 2. So which 2 items do you not want us to use? because there's not enough ports to do our job correctly. We enter 100 to 200 grades a day. Doing that like this goes against everything I teach my kids in typing class. We need keypads. Most of us can do this without looking, right? This is not effective. We can't do this effectively. You know, it's not going to be the same. Our desktop screens are much larger and much more ergonomic. Something I teach my students all the time is to work smarter, not harder. We are going to have to work much harder to just use Chromebooks. Currently, the ones of us who do use our Chromebooks multitask. I have my pecking orders from Ivy Tech on this screen. I have my East Porter stuff on this screen, and I need them both. I can't do my job with only one screen. We need two. It is just legitimately a need. So I understand, or at least we've been told through the grapevine that this is a financial issue. This is a really lousy way to save a buck. We need our computers. So I ask you to rethink this policy before you take them this summer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Earl. Next up on the sign-up sheet is Stephanie. Hope I pronounced that right.
Yes, Stephanie Heaton. I actually,
I'm sorry, Mrs. Can you move your microphone closer to the audience? Is having a hard time, and Mr. Martin's having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, be glad to.
thank you. Okay, hello, my name's Stephanie Heaton, and my daughter is Sophie Heaton, and she's the one who won individual sectionals for tennis last year. And I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm speaking on the agenda. I believe it's 5B. Although tennis wasn't stated, but I was invited, so I'm just to say hi and just tell you a little bit more about my vision. And I know finance is a big thing this year, and I just want to know that I would forego my stipend if that was something that would make it move forward as a passion. I have a passion for tennis because it's a lifelong sport. It teaches virtues to these girls to make them better adults. The courts are definitely playable. We've played on worse throughout the district. And we actually don't even need our own courts to play tennis to have your own tennis team, which is something we learned last year. So if Morgan wanted their own team, all they need is public tennis courts. And North Newton did it, and they had to start small, and then they grew. And they were really my inspiration because they loved it so much they would travel an hour just to play matches with other teams. And so anyway, I just wanted to introduce myself and just let you know that I hope you support the tennis team at Cows. That's it.
Thank you very much for your comments and your passion for tennis.
Oh, thank you.
Next individual who signed up is Beth Furby.
My name is Beth Berkey, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a high school business teacher here at Couts, along with Lacey Earl. And I want to speak on agenda item 2C also about the financial goals for this year and support what Lacey said about our technology. Since I have been here, this is my 8th year full-time teaching. Technology in my room is going what I would consider backwards rather than being updated and current. I have been the overhead document camera that I had that was working was taken from my room and replaced with one that I can barely use it. It's a small one and it barely covers my books that I need to show on the document camera. I've had my printers taken away. I've been told that my entire computer lab is being taken this summer, and I'm losing my desktop, as the rest of us were told that we were losing. And to me, as a business teacher, I am preparing my students for a world that is filled with technology. And I understand that this is not something that the district has a lot of money to replace at this time, I get that. And as you're setting your goals for 2025 and beyond, I would ask you to consider, please put that in there, that not only do we replace these and upgrade them at some point in the very near future, but I would also request that you allow us to keep what we have until that time that you can replace. Like Lacey said, we need our desktops. We use those constantly, all the time. Chromebooks just do not replace what we use our desktops for. So I understand that that maybe isn't in the budget this year to replace all that, but I'm just requesting that we be allowed to keep what we do have, even though it's old and outdated, until such time that the board can afford to replace and upgrade our technology.
Thank you very much. Next, Jared. Go next.
Good job. I was a little nervous for you the first time.
What's that?
A little nervous for you to say my name the first time, so good job. Yes, yes we have. I'm here to talk on actually all of section 4. And nothing new. You guys have heard me say this before, but I think this is probably the most egregious case here. There's one attachment on tonight's agenda, and that's the personnel report. Tonight, you're voting on financial matters. You're voting on, so many things. The idea of public comment is for the public to offer their opinion, to help you prevent making a wrong decision. How can anyone in the public help you? How can we give you any advice? We've heard 2 teachers tonight speak about IT issues. You guys have voted on a contract that the public has never seen. I've been in the technology field for 20 plus years. I understand what they're talking about. It's a simple solution. If your IT company is telling you they can't do it, you need a new IT company. But the public can't tell you that because you don't give us the information. Now, the 7 of you do not write the information. People at the end of the table, they do it. I'm asking you all tonight to call a motion to ask the superintendent to include all documents with the agenda. Just the information. The information that anyone in the public can ask for after waiting 3 or 4 weeks for him to give it to us after you voted. There's no reason why we can't see it before you vote. It's not confidential. It's not privileged. It's simply his desire for us not to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comment. And the final individual that I have is Sharon, and I don't want to.
Van Clay.
Van Clay, that's right.
I want to touch on 3 things. 2C, 4B, and 5B. So just reiterating what Lacey and Beth already said about technology. That is a huge blow to us. I know we have a semester to prepare, but honestly, I use both of my computers all the time. Already trying to figure out how I'm going to print things at the last minute when now I'm not going to have access to a printer because we don't have, the closest printer is our copy machine in the office, and I can't just run a kid down there to make a copy because they need our badge. So it really, like the domino effect of that really starts to happen when we start thinking about all the technology things that we're going to miss out on. Second thing is I would also like to just voice my support for the tennis team. I know how passionate Stephanie is with tennis. I know how successful Sophia was last year. The fact that there were more girls that were interested in it this year because they saw how well it went last year. I think that is nothing but a good thing. And I think anytime we allow our kids to have more opportunities and we have kids interested in those opportunities, we need to take advantage of it. The final thing that I want to touch base on, it says approval of athletic trainer on here, and I'm really glad to see that. I think it's really important for us to have one. Sorry. My daughter got hurt Thursday night. It was really scary. And having Nate tweet there to clean her up and get her bandaged up and wrapped up and tell us what to do. It was such a relief. And I mean, we had enough sense to know that she needed to go get looked at. But I can't guarantee that every parent of every athlete knows what they need to do in that situation. And after talking with my husband this weekend about it, we just kept saying, I'm so glad that he was here. What if we were at a school that didn't have a trainer? What if we would have tried to make her just walk on it the rest of the night? Or like, how would she have gotten on the bus and how would she have gotten taken care of? And I just can't stress enough after seeing it happen so recently and so fresh. I'm really glad that it says approval on here, and I hope that is the case. But I just can't stress enough how important it is that we have an athletic trainer at our sporting events. So.
Appreciate your comment. This time, Dr. Case, we have suspension of the public meeting in order to continue the order time.
In January of every year, the board, it is necessary that you hold a Board of Finance meeting. So at this time, I'm recommending that we go through, we go through and suspend the regular meeting so that the board can conduct its Board of Finance meeting. First item on the Board of Finance, it is my recommendation that the board use the slate of officers as it is set up for the other meeting. And so there is a resolution for the board if they so choose.
I will say in the past, we've also always had, at least in the last 10 years or so, that the officers that were elected to the school board also were the same officers for the Board of Finance.
Correct.
So I certainly entertain a motion that the school corporation, school trustees authorizing an entire board of trustees to serve as the Board of Finance for the calendar year 2025.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? That was Mrs. Terpstra, a second. Are there any comments or discussion? Well, hearing them, then I would call the question. You have this Board of School Trustees authorize the entire Board of Trustees to serve as the Board of Finance for the calendar year 2025, and the officers will serve in the same capacity on both boards, and all Board of Finance business will be conducted within the Board of Trustees meeting. All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. And that motion passes 7-0.
At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Mrs. Nieves to go over the review the investment report.
So we have the investment report for 2024 calendar year. I will say we present it as an investment report. However, these are just bank accounts that we have our funds in. So we have 5 different accounts. We have a Hoosier fund account and a Centeer account. Those are accounts that money was placed in that earn a higher percentage than our standard FirstSource bank accounts. And then we have 3 FirstSource bank accounts. We have our general fund where most of our money is. We have a separate fund or separate account for our cafeteria accounts that people deposit their money in. So all that money is held separately so we can balance that each month. And then our 2022 bond that we took out has its own separate bank account. So overall, In 2024, our interest was $851,259. This is significantly more than we've seen. For example, in 2021, we received $76,000. Our interest rates have been more than about 5.5% for most of this calendar year, which has been higher than we've seen in several years prior. However, those rates are starting to drop now. So now this month, we just got our statement this month and we're down to about 4.8%. Which is those expected to be questions on this report? And then moving on to our financial goals. So our corporation financial goals, the first goal is to have a long-term capital plan to support the district targets. And so we have a 3 and a 5 year plan, continually working to try to make those better and improve them and try to project out longer if possible. Our investment policy, our goal is to review that annually. We reviewed that in February of 2024. So when we hold policy meetings again, we will look to review that policy. Same with our debt policy. We look to identify needs to support the district plans, acquire debt, but maintain the property tax rate without significant fluctuations in the overall tax rate. We have issued debt for needed projects and maintain the tax rate. The next goal is to work to maintain a combined cash balance in the education and operations fund of 15% of the approved annual combined budget. As of December 31st, 2024, we're at 39%. So we're exceeding that target. The next goal is to maintain at least $3 million in the rainy day fund annually. That balance has been maintained through all of 2024. And the last goal is to effectively use resources in the operations fund, including capital projects, transportation, and bus replacement expenditures that provide students with an environment that is safe and conducive to learning. So as a board, superintendent, assistant superintendent, our directors, we look at those expenditures monthly and monitor those things that we're choosing to spend our funds on. Any questions on that? Okay. So,
while she's doing that, just so the public understands, if you go back to 2011, the $851,000 plus that we've gotten in interest is twice as much as any year in that. And in the leanest years, we were getting like 18,000 when the interest rate was down to Zippo. And it was a hit to all of the accounts.
So annually, based on the House, Senate Enrolled Act 549, we have to review the fiscal indicators report that DUAP puts out. DUAP is the Distressed Unit of Appeals Board. And so they have a website and they annually publish these indicators. They have updated this website this year, so it looks a little different than in the past. It has a few different markers on it. So for our school corporation, they are behind in these reports. So this data will be a year behind, so they lag a year. So this is for the 23-24 school year. They report our ADM for fall of 2023 is 2359. So currently our ADM is 2307. Their net assessed value was $1,410,000 for 2024. And the estimated population in our area is 14,220. So our average daily membership, our ADM, again, this is just kind of a chart that shows the trends over time. We know that this number continues to decline. Our demographics, this is a new slide for this year. So they show our free and reduced percentage, our special education numbers, and our English language learner percentages. So our special education has stayed pretty steady, same with our English language learners. I'd just like to speak on the free and reduced population somewhat. This is kind of a passion of mine lately that I just keep talking about. It's very important for students and parents to understand that when they register their children, filling out the free and reduced application is extremely important to our school district. It's not just about free lunch. I know that's kind of how it's portrayed, but it has so many other benefits for us. Our grant money is based on that percentage. We get a, if you can help me, but a E-rate discount through technology to help with our infrastructure that's based on our free and reduced percentage. We get certain testing money and things like that. The counselors look at that when they have to buy a test or get a test for somebody or a test for a student. They have to know whether or not on some things they're free and reduced. There's so many things that are based on that number. I don't think people realize. Some of our communities just hesitant to fill that out, or maybe they have a vocational student and they think, I'm not going to eat lunch there anyway, which I understand. However, that does negatively affect our funding in the state eyes. There's so much stuff that's based on that percentage. I'm at a food service meeting today, and there's a great initiative in this area called Region Roots, where they give, it's farm to table, all these things that they give to schools for from farmers in the area, things that are great that we would, I think our community would highly support. We can't get any of it because our free and reduced percentage isn't high enough. We don't get to take advantage of that program. So there's a lot of things that are based on that number. So just my 2 cents on that. But so our fund balances, this is kind of a busy slide, and it gives a lot of different fund types. So over time, this goes back to 2014. In 2019, that is when the general fund was no longer, and we have the education operations fund. So there's kind of some differences between the years to look at it overall. But it does give capital funds, which would be our bonds, things that we're looking to do, bigger projects. Our debt fund has declined in the last couple of years, but that's required by the state. DLGF tells us that we can only have so much in that fund, so they purposely decreased that fund and will not allow me to spend any more than that amount in the debt fund. Education has increased along with our operations fund. Again, some of those things, like the interest, where we've earned interest this last year higher than normal, those are things that have contributed to increasing that. This is 2023, so 2024 will be similar. But, we had, coming out of COVID, we had ESSER funds that we used for some of the things that we would normally have had to pay for out of operations. We had, just couldn't get things. We had a lot of projects. When I started, we had, I think, 3 or 4 different bonds that we had opened to do specific projects, and we couldn't finalize them because we just couldn't get the materials, labor, all those shortages that happened during COVID. So, coming into 22, 23, we've been able to spend down those bonds. We do still have a bond that we opened in 2022 to look at for the next, for 2025 and 2026. Our annual deficit and surplus. So we've had deficits. This takes into account all of our funds. So this is kind of deceiving again, because we got a $3 million deposit for ESSER money that took us a couple years to spend. Those that will show a deficit in 2022 because we spent down those bonds, we spent down those ESSER dollars. It's not really, we didn't have a deficit in our operating or education or rainy day funds. It's just in those other funds that were meant for specific purposes. A fund balance as a percentage of expenditures. So we've gone from the lowest of 39.4 to 2023 is our highest of 53.1%. And our revenue by type, this just tells where our money comes from. The majority of our money comes from two sources. State revenue is the biggest, and then our property taxes are the next largest. We do not have an operating referendum, so we don't have anything on this slide. So this lists the sources of the data, and that will be available if anybody wants to go on their website and review those numbers. Any questions?
Questions, comments?
Has this been provided to the public ahead of time?
This is on the DUEB website, so anybody can go to it, yeah, and
Is it on our website and attached to our agenda for tonight?
It's on the agenda.
It will be available to the public tomorrow.
Is there any reason why it could not be provided to the public ahead of time so that they could look over this and be prepared for the presentation?
Sure, our current past practice and the direction that we have been given is to be given to the public afterwards. So that is something that the board could change.
Could we change that tonight by calling a motion to include those documents ahead of time?
That is between the board president.
A motion to do that?
You can certainly make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to include all documents we attach to the agenda ahead of time so that the public can be prepared. Do I hear a second?
Well, that's,
Sorry.
yeah, maybe next year you be the president. It's been moved, and Mrs. Bowersock to include the financial information in the board documents ahead of time so the public can see said documents. Do I hear a second? Hear a second?
I'll second.
It's been seconded by Mrs. Starr. Any questions, comments?
Is she looking to add just in the financial board meeting, doing it like it's the trustee of the financial meeting?
I was actually looking to call a motion to include all documents that, other than the confidential ones that cannot be seen by the public, be included in the agenda so that the public can be in the know about the items before coming to a public meeting.
All items.
Yes, all items.
Any other questions, comments? Then I would certainly call the question. All those in favor of Mrs. Bowersock's motion to documents for the public to see that are not confidential prior to the board meeting. Call the question. All those in favor, raise your hand. See anybody down there? No. So the motion did not pass. It was 0-2-0, and there was no nays. The nays were not raising your hand. Next, I think we need to approve the Board of Finance meeting. I would feel comfortable approving that we have reviewed the investment report, that we do approve the 2025 financial goals, and that we have reviewed the fiscal and quantitative indicators report. That would be items 2B, 2C, and 2D. Right here, motion. So moved. Mr. Martin moves. Is there a second? Second to approve the review investment report, to approve certainly the 2025 financial goals, and to approve and review the review of the fiscal and quantitative indicators report. Any questions, comments? I will call the question then. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. And then it will be an abstention or?
I'd actually, be voting no. I was provided this information, with only, 2 business days and very little time to to look over the information. And as a new board member, I do not feel comfortable, voting in favor of it at this time until more information is provided.
Okay, so the motion then passes 6-1. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the financial meeting and reconvene the regular board meeting.
So
Moved by Mrs. McFall. Is there a second?
second.
Who's second? Okay, Mrs. Terpstra, second. Any discussion or comments? Then all those in favor of adjournment of the financial meeting and reconvening the regular board meeting signify by raising a hand. And that motion passes 7-0. Next is the consent agenda consisting of items 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, and 3E. That would be 3A, approval of minutes, executive session, December the 9th, 2024. Item 3B, which is approval of minutes, public session, December 9th, 2024. Item 3C, financial matters, payroll. And item 3D, financial matters, claims list. And item 3E, approval personnel report. So I would entertain a motion.
So moved. Terpstra.
Okay, Mrs. Terpstra has made a motion to approve the items under the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFall. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the consent agenda consisting of items 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, and 3E signify by raising a hand. That motion.
If you don't feel comfortable, voting in favor of something that the public is not given a copy of.
That would be, the motion passes. Yeah. Okay. Next on the agenda is action items. Approval of resolution 2025-2, transfer from education to operations fund.
So to be able to meet the needs of the operations fund, we have to transfer money from the education fund to the operations fund. We can transfer up to 15%. And in 2024, we transferred 7%. We do not want to transfer up to 15%. It's on our plan, but we would like the board to approve up to $200,000 per month to transfer from education to operations. Again, this is not necessarily what we've done in the past, but should the need arise, we would like to be able to transfer that.
Any questions for my human resource financial?
So we intend that it would be similar to the past, so probably 1.2 or 1.4 million, depending on the interest that we receive and the ABM and all of those things that factor into the next school year.
I have a question. Do the technology resources that teachers spoke about, do those come out of the education fund or the operations fund?
That was kind of combined operation and other potential grants.
Okay, but they typically come out of the education fund because they're used to educate the students and it could be considered a supply. Is that correct?
It is traditionally not necessarily been out of education. We try to find other ways to take it other than education.
For the container that they currently have right now that they're wanting to keep, was that is that funding to keep those computers up to date? Does that come out of the education or the operations fund?
Agreed to the appeal for that yet. Those, we look at technology as a whole in the spring because that's when our RDC grant application comes out. We can apply for a common school loan to the state. And then we look at our needs for our education and operations departments here. We also can use, we have written those technology into our bonds, so we can also use those funds for that.
I guess I would continue in the question that Mrs. Bowersock is asking, and that is, if the directive went out, what fund was going to be affected? It's a combination of the funds. So the transfer, which we've traditionally given you authority to do the transfer, but never used the full amount that we used. I guess my concern is there, I know we need to approve this transfer, but I also know that teachers don't come and speak unless there's a concern. And so, is there a way of guaranteeing that the teachers get their laptops? Or was that in kind of desktops? You know, I'm a technology whiz. Did you answer that? Did I finish my question? Did
I don't know that that's based on the transfer necessarily. Two separate things.
Totally different question.
That's what I meant. And that's what I thought. I mean, having been at this, and for the crowd to realize I have tremendous congestion and a really foggy mind tonight. Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve this, but I want to visit what we're talking about. So I would make a motion to approve this resolution because I know we need to transfer it, and I don't think it's going to affect what we're doing, but I do want to affect what we're doing. You understand? Does everybody understand my? Okay, that's my motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Martin with certain addendums for approval of resolution 2025-2 transfer from education operations fund. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mrs. Terps. Any other comments, questions?
We had spoken about this in the executive meeting, and I had also brought up the concern that I was not given this information with enough time to mull it over and sort of digest, what all this meant. So I had requested additional information with more details regarding how much of that money and more of an itemized list of where this $200,000 per month is going. And Mrs. Nieves explained that she will provide me that information. However, I will be abstaining from voting on this particular topic at this time.
Okay, any other comment, questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. So then I have approval 601. Okay. Next item is item 4B, approval of athletic training.
So at this time, we are asking the board to approve the trainer, which we, according to the proposal that has been given to you. And at this time, too, we would be recommending to be said trainer. If the board elects to approve the position.
I'll make a motion to approve an athletic trainer of name each week.
First, is there a second?
Okay.
Second by Mrs. McFall. Any comments, questions about the athletic trainers? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of athletic trainer signify by raising the hand. That motion passes 7-0. Next action item is approval of athletic trainer service agreement.
So one of the things about having an athletic trainer, you also have to have medical oversight. So we are asking the board to approve the agreement with Lakeshore Bone and Joint, who will be providing us that medical oversight.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any comments of approving the athletic trainers service agreement?
I'd just like to clarify for the public that we are not paying for this contract.
Any other comments? What's been moved and seconded for approval of the athletic trainer service agreement? Call the question. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That motion passes 7-0. Next is approval of early literacy grant stipend.
So this is the second year that the Department of Education in the state of Indiana has issued grants out to be utilized for individuals working with students K-3 in the literacy. The way that it is distributed is the same way that the board approved for the grant to be distributed last year. We are asking the board to approve the paying out of the literacy grant to qualified individuals according to the state is giving us as what they have to be qualified.
Any questions, comments?
I just want to say that this grant last year was over $48,000. This year we received over $7,000. So these are far less than what were paid out last year. And also when we get a grant, whether it's early literacy grant or the TAG grant, higher amount for stipend, for taxes, everything has to come out of that. None of that extra is budgeted for in the education fund. The grant has to be for the entirety of the amount paid for all of those items. So that question comes up a lot. It's just something that has to be encompassed in that money that we get. So each amount is different based on the teacher's choice for term, and for TAG, it's different based on their rating evaluation.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Any other comments?
Could this have been something that we could have attached the agenda ahead of time, or is this confidential information?
It's confidential for the amount for the infrastructure. Working step number.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, then I call the question. All those in favor of approval of the early literacy grant stipend, signify by raising your hand.
Who made the motion?
There was a motion. No?
We'll take it for the motion.
Okay, I'm entertaining
Just,
the motion.
I'm foggy, but I'm not that foggy.
Oh, thank you for keeping me straight, Mr. Ryan.
I'm sorry, Mr. Richard.
No, you want to do things properly. Is there a second? Second, all right, we have a second, we're glad to have that second. Any other, it's been moved by Mrs. McFalls and seconded by Mrs. Starr. I'm gonna call the question, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. That is passed 7-0. The next item we have is approval of the cafeteria flooring to be completed at House and Morgan Township.
So last month we brought this, and there were some questions in regards to the contract. We had cleaned all that stuff up, and so we're bringing it back to the board for reconsideration. And we're asking the board to approve it as presented.
Any comments or questions? How many bids were done for the, for this work?
We had 3 different vendors that were reached out according to what the price amounts for the state requirements.
Was that information available to the public?
It was given to the board.
Or was it provided to the public ahead of this meeting or at the last meeting?
My No, it was not.
Any other questions, comments? And I would look for a moved and second. Is there any motion for approval of the cafeteria plan to be completed at Couts and Morgan?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. McFall. Any other comments for the last time? Call the question. All those in favor? Approval of the cafeteria formula to be completed at Couts and Morgan Township. Raise a hand. And that is 6 to 1. Next item on the agenda is the approval of E-rate internet and WAN bid.
So part of the fact that we are a public school, we do qualify for E-rate, which allows the federal government subsidizes some of our electronic updates and then also our internet provider. We have chosen, just as many schools do, to have 2 separate internet providers because it gives us continuity of service if one goes down. And so with the rate, these are the best responses that we received from the request for proposals that we put out. So we are asking the board to approve it as presented.
Any questions or comments?
Was this provided to the public ahead of time?
It was not.
Were there more than one bid?
Yes, there was. We put it out for proposal that anybody who had the services could offer a bid.
Are there any other questions or comments? Well, I sure would be looking for a motion in a second.
I just want to clarify really quickly with the, sorry, I do have a question.
Okay, sure.
On this bid, I just want to double check. Did it say, is this, I know it's E-rate, but is it, landline? So we use landline, correct?
Fiber.
Fiber optic for.
Any other questions? Comments?
It is Surfair, so I know they have but no, this is all fiber. They lead all brand new fiber. Matter of fact, there's a map of it in here.
Yeah. I did have a question. Are we doing the 36-month term or the 60-month term?
Our recommendation is for the 60-month term.
Good questions? Any other questions or comments?
If we wanted to end the term earlier, would we be able to, or are we locked into the 60-month term?
If we were, there are termination parts in it, but we would be locked in, but there are some termination guidelines that we would be able to follow. It might cost us a little bit, but I do
Were
not know
those
what those are.
provided to myself or to the public?
I don't know if they're in the document that you have or not.
I didn't see that in there, so.
Any other questions, comments? Still looking for a,
Go ahead. There is in the,
There is one. And, yeah, and then.
so the answer is yes, that they're in that document.
Would we be penalized if we end the contract early? That was 60 months is a long time, and if it's not working appropriately and we're locked into.
There's an early termination.
Doesn't say what it is.
For the provider, all amounts due and payable for service provided prior to termination. Doesn't have a dollar amount.
I have a comment. Do we have to set standards, like our expectations are in here, right? Of what we expect our speeds to be, the number of IP. So if they're not meeting that, to your point, and we're dissatisfied, they would also be in breach because they wouldn't be meeting our satisfaction. So I don't think the termination fee would then apply. It would be if they're doing everything on their part and then we chose to still cancel. Right, correct.
Okay. Do I hear a motion for approval of the E-rate internet and WAN bid? So moved by Mrs. Terpstra. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any other comments again, questions? Seeing none, then I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. All right. Now we have approval of writing letter to First Onsite for priority of services.
So with the different natural disasters that have taken place, it has given us rise to consider what would we do and who would we contact. And there are 3 different companies that Mr. Kenworthy reached out to talk to. And first response does not require a contract. Basically, they just want a gentleman's agreement saying, hey, if we have issues, we would call you first. The board had asked us what would their rates be in comparison to like ServPro or other ones. And the rates that we got back matched up pretty close to where they were. Obviously, they'd be different for different services. Some of them, they were a little higher. Some of them, they were a little lower, depending on the particular services. But in doing so, by agreeing to contact First Onsite first and say that they would be our primary contact, they will also come in and for free go through and put a service plan together so that when they came in, it makes that service even expedited so that we can get back up and running. So we are asking the board for permission to send this letter just telling them that they would be our first contact. And in doing so, we would be able to get the recovery services up and running and make it so that we be quick. So that's what we're asking. If there's no monetary contracts or anything along those, it's just an understanding that they would be our first contact if we have a major disaster.
Do I hear a motion to approve the writing a letter to First Onsite for priority of services? So moved. Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? Mrs. Terpstra. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any more questions or comments? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor of writing approval to write a letter to First Onsite for priority of services, signify by raising your hand. I have 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay, 6. Okay, next one is approval of mileage reimbursement rate.
So in our policy 3225 for travel, we reimburse for travel within or outside of our corporation. If it's something that's approved through someone's contract or travel for a professional development or something of that sort, we use the IRS standard mileage rate. They have increased that rate as of January 1st to 70 cents. So we're just asking that we can increase our reimbursement rate to 70 cents from the 67 cents it currently is.
For federal guideline.
Correct, IRS.
Any comments, questions? Do I hear a motion to approve the mileage reimbursement rate?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. McFall. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Terpstra. Any other comments? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the mileage reimbursement rate, signify by raising your hand. So 6. Are you abstaining there?
Well, I'm gonna say no because, I guess I could abstain either one. Again, this could have been, an attachment very easily attached to our agenda, which was not provided to the public. And I'm not in agreement with that.
Okay. So noted, and the motion passes 6-1. Next, looks like approval of the Washington Township Key Club overnight field trip.
So we're asking the board to approve it so that the Key Club officers can go down to Indianapolis and participate in the event.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. McFalls. Any comments? Questions? I think it's a great organization. The more students can participate in events such as this, the better. Seeing no other questions, I will call the question. All those in favor of approval of the Washington Township Key Club overnight field trip, signify by raising your hand. That motion passes 7-0. Okay, what about board member discussion? Any board members have anything to say in the public session here?
I do, Mr. McSpirit.
Yes.
I would encourage everyone to donate blood at East Porter County Blood Drive that will be on Wednesday, the 22nd over at Cornerstone. I know it's PCC, but it starts at noon and we ends at 6, and we have plenty of openings prior to the game. So don't hesitate to sign up. It's a friendly competition between the 3 schools, and there is some scholarship money attached to it. So each school has a liaison with either their Key Club or their National Honor Society that's in charge of that, and that person will be the recipient of scholarship dollars.
So you go in and say what school you're from.
Yes, make sure you sign up for whatever school you're representing that day.
From 12 noon to 6 p.m.
Yep.
Wednesday, 27. Okay.
And Morgan's will be in the spring in Washington.
Are you the chairperson?
I am the National Honor Society advisor here at House.
Okay.
You're spearheading the council today.
Great.
This is for the
Do you have a flyer? In the past, we've had something.
Yes, I do, and my kids have them, and they're dispersing them through town, so, we'll make sure we get one up in the office. Yeah.
I put it up on social media.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Great. Anybody else have anything you'd like to shoot out?
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question regarding the public comments about the directive and replacing the technology. Was there a workplace study, like assessment done with the teachers prior to that directive? And forgive me for not knowing, because I am new and I haven't done all the deep dives for all these things yet.
So in looking, we have all of our desktops are coming to end of life. So therefore they will no longer be supported.
Yeah.
So then there was conversation about how would that play out? Do we replace the desktops? Do we go through and look at Chromebooks, laptops? And so therefore the technology department had conversations with the different buildings. And then also we had conversations with the principals on the best way to do that. Then it was proposed to us, and I'll be honest, I was caught a little bit off guard because none of these have come through the teacher discussion where they've had concerns and been brought to the district level on that. But in doing that, the questions and different things that we were looking at is how to combine the desktop and the Chromebook. So we looked at laptops. And so to hear that the number, Mrs. Earl, you said that you talked to how many, or surveyed how many?
Just under 30, I think it was 20.
Okay, under 30 teachers, that is new information. And so conversation, I know that we did have conversations about the business part or department specifically, and I know we do have labs that were desktops. Some of those labs were, we were getting new desktops for those labs because we know business with the classes a little bit different.
Was there any cost analysis on desktop versus like a docking station with like 2 monitors, a number pad, extra ports, anything like that?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that was the direction that we were initially looking to go. But then the cost, impacting the other channels that we're having, especially with the new potential tariffs. We can't even get quotes right now. The companies aren't even willing to give us quotes because they don't know what those prices are going to be. So the biggest reason we went through and gave the information just to give teachers a heads up isn't even because of the desktops or the Chromebooks or anything along those lines. With the server spaces and different things along those lines, a lot of our teachers still have server space on it, and their information is not in the cloud. And so we are looking at moving all that information to cloud as opposed to server-based. And we wanted to give our people ample time to move that stuff to like the Google Drive or to get it out of the H drive, simply because the H drive will not be available.
And the items that come end of life, that becomes a concern of our cyber.
Absolutely, sure.
Yes. So they did not allow us to keep things that are at the end of life.
Any other board member discussion?
I had some members of the community inquire about the policy meetings that have been added to the calendar. Can you give us some input on that?
Sure. In the past, we have had policy meetings and they have been posted online and all that kind of stuff. There were some questions about whether they needed to be posted or not. And so just to help, because there's never been any intention on keeping when we have those meetings, we just figured why not just go ahead and put it with the other meetings and just post when they're going to be held.
Okay.
Since there were community members that had concerns about when those meetings were going to be held.
Can you let us know, are all of our board members welcome at those policy creating committees?
The current policy that we have says that there's three board members, only 3 board members would be allowed. Otherwise, we would be in violation of having a quorum. So only 3 board members. And the current policy is set up that it is 1 representative from each of the townships.
You're just making recommendations.
All they're doing is looking at the policy to bring to the rest of the board for the board to vote then and take action.
What is your concern with creating quorum? Is there a reason why we would want to keep the public out of those meetings?
The reason you can't have 4 board meetings or 4 board members because then it goes through and has to do
With the open door law?
correct.
Correct. So is there any reason why we wouldn't want to have that door open for the community to be able to observe how policies are created?
That is totally to the discretion of the board. That is the policy that the board has had in place for Mr. Martin.
Oh, good.
I was going to say before I got here. That's just policy of the board.
Okay. Any other discussion? Go ahead.
I just want to congratulate our DECA team at our school. They did awesome this weekend, represented us really well. Got 15 posts and students who did phenomenal. Got some noise states. I'm sure Cyril can help with that. And I know that we represent ourselves really well. So congratulations again, Gracie. Good job, the students. Applaud them. Thanks. All 3 campuses. So awesome on that. And I also just want to say we got done with our JV PCC. Always fun and competitive. And Couts had girls and boys represent really well. They did win both JV boys and girls, but Washington Township was there. Also in South Central. It was great. It was a good weekend. Busy weekend for parents involved, but it was a good weekend.
Good.
So congratulations.
There would be some disagreement on that.
Well, it's always good to hear good positives. Because there's more than that than anything else going on for sure. Dr. Case, you have some additional items.
I do. So at this time, and our board policy states that anything over $1,000 the board has to approve. However, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be recognizing some of our other patrons and their generosity. So Mr. Good has donated $200 for the basketball teams at Couts. Mr. Good has also donated $100 towards the dance team for meals as well. Hoosier Crane has donated $400 to help with the baseball sign fundraiser at Couts. The Couts has also received various donations up to $90 received for the drama club in their first production after it's been a little while. Mr. Good donated $100 towards Christmas meals for cheerleaders at Couts. Darby Straw, $500 for the girls varsity cheerleading to help with some pom-poms and uniforms at Washington Township. Powder Processing, $500 to assist in academic programs at Washington Township. And as always, it is a pleasure to read those off and just talk about the generosity and how much our community supports what we're doing in schools. The other part, I've got two other items. One of them is permission to talk to and list Dave Hollenbach, but I will be bringing that at a later date once I get a proposal on how much that would cost for him to investigate the LIC for wastewater treatment. The last thing that I have to bring for the board tonight is the conversation to start dialogue and look at a potential tennis team at Couts. In December, I received a proposal from the athletic director that I forwarded and shared. And I know Mr. Roush is here tonight, and I have asked him to talk to the board and walk a little bit through what that proposal would look like. And then we can talk, and then the board can decide how we want to move forward from there.
Before I get into tennis, I want to thank you first for approving our athletic trainer. I was there Saturday evening when Elizabeth was injured, and I was extremely thankful to have Mr. Tweet on site to treat her immediately and get her taken care of. But I also am congested and have a cough tonight, so if I have a little fit, please excuse me. In 2023, 2024, Sophia Heaton competed as an individual, but had to do so under the IHSA Rule 15 waiver, where when a school does not have a program, the school principals can get together and agree that the student from the school that does not have a program can practice at another school, compete alongside their team, but not as a member of their team still. So Sophia did it as a Couts student, but she practiced at Wheeler and kind of competed on their schedule. She was extremely successful. One sectional was in the regional individual championship, and this has really generated some momentum to get a full varsity girls tennis program started at Couts. Prior to me starting, there was a call-out meeting. We had 10 girls sign up, show interest in that creation of that program. Of those 10, 7 said they had played tennis or pickleball before. 2 said no, and 1 just put a question mark on the sign-up sheet. And then also I cross-referenced to see what other spring sports they played. So how many more students would this get participating in athletics at Couts? And of the 10, 6 did not play another spring sport. I know talking with Stephanie, there seems to be some additional interest, so there may be a few more girls who are interested in it as well. To get it going, I know the cost from the athletic department, we do need a new net on our tennis courts out here at Couts. Balls for practice, stuff like some basic stuff like that. That is all something that I believe can be absorbed through the athletic department budget. Uniforms, from my experience, the school I was at before, we offered everything except wrestling and gymnastics. So for some sports, we did ask for the student athletes to purchase their own uniforms because of the personal fit and personal nature of the uniforms, and tennis was one of those. And we did, Mrs. Heaton did some background, and it's roughly a $60 to $70 that these student athletes would have to pay that would get them a top and a scores for competitions. We do know that at some point the courts would need to be resurfaced. But as of right now, they are good enough for practice and potentially 1 or 2 home matches this year. One of the questions that was presented to me was pickleball lines. Speaking with the IHSAA, we can have pickleball lines on the tennis court as long as they are not white. The directive was that it be just a lighter color of the courts. So if the courts are green, then they would just be a lighter green, while the tennis lines would be white. The vision, I think, for if this were to be moved forward this year would be 10 to 12 matches. We would love to do a home match to celebrate the creation of the team and a senior night at once. But the majority of them would be away, simply because with 4 courts, it's tough to play home matches, but we certainly could do it. I think adding a varsity girls tennis program, anytime you can expand your offerings, it increases the opportunities, especially for our female students, to develop skills far beyond what they'll use in high school. It is a lifelong sport. I mean, I see people in their 90s playing it, and obviously the rise in pickleball is kind of piggybacks off tennis as well. So thank you. If there's any questions for me at this time, I'm happy to answer to the best of my knowledge.
Would it be possible to get a proposal in writing together so we could see that? Yeah, so I mean, I didn't read the whole thing. Are you asking for a vote?
Well, that's one of the things that the board would have to look at, because I personally, and I know I've talked to Mr. Roush. So how many competitions or meets do these students have to have in order to qualify so that they could participate in sectionals?
6. So we would have to play 6 matches for them to qualify for sectionals. I spoke with a representative of the IHSA today. There is no deadline to get entered, so I would just need to call the IHSA and say, yes, we're going to have a tennis team this spring, and they would add us to the list for sectionals.
Can you get 6?
I think so. I have not reached out to any schools to see if we can get something scheduled, just because we don't have a team officially yet. But Mrs. Heaton did provide me a list of, what was there, 12 schools on the list?
Yeah, 12 schools.
Because one of the things that I don't, and I know that she did extremely well last year, I would hate for us to start a sport and then her not be able to qualify for sectional because we didn't have enough.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I do realistically think we could get 10 on the schedule, and then hopefully the weather isn't too crazy this spring where we have to cancel half of them. That would be the catch, the unforeseen circumstance.
I'm curious if you talked to either of the other 2 schools about whether they had interest. And the only reason I say that is I've now been on the board a millennium, and we took the tennis courts away at Washington to build a building. And for 30 whatever years, I've been trying to get tennis courts back at Washington Township. So I'm just curious of what the jealousy factor is going to be when we have it at one school and not at the other 2. And I'm not opposed to it all. I'm in favor of it.
At this point, I have not talked to the other schools about it, but certainly would be happy to.
I have a couple questions. What's the average size of a tennis team?
I think it really varies. I think, when I was at Heritage Christian in Indianapolis, we would have 20 or 25 girls. But
At
what's
seven,
7, 8.
Between 7 and 25, it really ranges.
It very much can have very much big range based on the community and the interest.
If there was interest at Morgan and Washington, is that something that we have an archery team, right? That's East Porter County.
But it does not, it's a clay shoot, play team, but that is not IHSAA. IHSAA would not allow the schools to keep.
Violate that.
Yeah.
What
They,
about
they could do the one or two, like what we've done with our singles, but they would not be able to form one and then compete through IHSAA.
Thank you. Would they be able to, 'cause I know we don't have a golf, course, so, you know, we have teams that would utilize other golf courses. Is this something that Washington Township and Morgan Township could utilize their tennis courts and form their own teams as long as they're willing to travel?
That is a possibility, or they could also try to find a public, some public courses or utilize others as well.
Okay, but I mean, I did see that these tennis courts were on the 3-year plan to be resurfaced, the budget.
That is part of the CPF plan.
Right, so we were already planning on maintaining and fixing the courts as it was prior to this proposal, so.
So the quote from last year was $35,000 to resurface it.
But it was in the budget that was approved, correct?
It was in our 3-year plan. that we had put
Right.
together, But it wasn't for this year now.
But this year they're fine.
So 2025, the calendar year.
Yes. Yeah, we're not asking to resurface the court. No, the courts are good enough to play this year, but they do like
How big
future.
are the cracks?
I haven't been out there in a little while.
How big are the cracks? This is the.
The C-
We played last year at many high schools and they were worse
And other high schools.
at other high schools. So ours,
The only reason I ask that is from the liabilities standpoint.
oh yeah, no, you won't trip.
We need to keep them up, for sure.
And also an interim way, what we can do is patch them. A lot of courts are just simply patched. They're not resurfaced completely. So there's little things you can do before.
My other question is, okay, 6 of the 10 aren't playing other sports. Is it gonna affect the 4? I mean, where are they gonna come from?
So
They're gonna have to choose between tennis and what they're doing right now.
we do allow dual sport.
I know,
Same-
no, I
so-
know that. I'm all for it. My son played 5.
We leave that pretty much up to the student athlete. If they want to try to do multiple sports, we work out a schedule so they can. If they did choose to just do tennis, that's their decision.
I'm just curious for the other sports' sakes. I'm
Yeah,
trying-
so 2 of them, this is based on what they did last year. 2 of them played softball and 2 of them ran track.
What are you looking for from us as far as, do we need a motion to pursue it as proposed by Mr. Rush and the kids? And can we include in that proposal that if there's interest in Washington and Morgan, we encourage their ADs to pursue it?
Basically, all we're looking for is that if the board wants to approve it as a sport for East Porter,
Okay,
and in doing that, it would make it eligible for all 3 campuses. And then we would have to work through a bargaining team to come up with what a stipend would be. But, and I know that, because that would be the other concern that I would have, working within our labor agreement. But I know that, I believe somebody said if the stipend were the issue, that
Yeah, I waive that.
for sure, until you could get that all hammered out.
well, I move my motion is what I just asked. I move that we pursue it at Couts and that if Washington and Morgan show interest, we pursue it there also.
Been moved by Mr. Martin. Is there a second? Second. Mrs. Bowersock, is there any other questions or comments?
I'm just clarifying, to make sure.
You've been with me for a long time.
I'm just clarifying for you too, sir. That you would like to start a tennis team.
You got it. That's what the
Each
motion.
All right, thank you, Bob. Mr. Martin, thank you very much. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Are you seconding the motion?
Yeah, she was.
That's right.
Yeah.
Are you approving them?
Right.
We're ready to vote.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a question before we vote. If said motion passes,
They don't have to drink Alpo's water. That was it.
no,
Because
if
forest
said,
animals don't drink it.
if said motion passes
and there is interest at Morgan and Washington, but we are unable to find a qualified coach there, then what becomes of those young ladies? I don't want to impose on Mrs. Keaton's generosity and add more to
Well,
her
I think
plate.
it has to be.
We just cross that bridge when we get there. Okay.
I think we can cross that bridge when we get there. Then we'll have to build courts, which is another bridge I'd like to see us cross.
I actually do have a question.
Go ahead.
Are there any leagues that have been or can be played indoors? Or, that's sorry. Is there any matches you can play indoors? Any schools that you can play
Pickleball.
indoors? With tennis? Is there
Well,
any-
so when it rains, they go to courts to practice, but they don't play
There's no
matches.
matches.
Yeah, and last year we had many rain days. We just worked around it. You get it in before, the storms come, you watch the weather. But
Track and softball.
yeah.
The stress, the general stress of athletic.
Good? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Martin's proposal for the tennis program at House Middle School, High School. All those in favor signify by raising your hand. That motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you for your indulgence in our ramblings. My other, and I didn't say anything when you asked us, Rick, sorry, but I would like to see us make sure that we've talked with, and I was just watching teachers' heads as the conversations were going on, and it was a surprise to you when you said that about the laptops.
I found out today.
Okay. So I, as a board member, would like to encourage, if it needs to be put in a motion, that we actually talk to staff and I mean, if they feel like they haven't been talked to, it's not a good thing. And I don't want to go backwards in technology. Rick Eisen was the guru of technology back in the day. And we brought all three schools up, and if I hear teachers telling me they feel like they're going backwards, that's not a good thing. And so all of you know how technologically illiterate I am. My kids tell me all the time, my wife tells me all the time, that's fine, I can live with it, I'm old. But I don't want kids to not understand technology or teachers to have the tools. So I'm soapboxing a little bit here, but I would just encourage us as a directive from the board. Do I see shaking heads? I don't know that needs to be a motion, but that we do everything we can possibly not to remove what they need.
Recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
And I felt that would
Can we
happen.
request a staff technology assessment? Is that something that we can do?
I guess the question that I would ask is what do you mean by a staff technology assessment?
Like for our teachers and our our office staff, anyone who uses technology, what do they currently have and what do they want moving forward? What are their wants?
Sure.
So then we can kind of have an inventory to see, maybe some people want docs, maybe some people want to keep their desktops, but having that knowledge, I think, would be helpful as we navigate whatever our technology team tells us we need to do moving forward. Great. Do we need to do anything to make that happen? Okay.
I don't think we need the motion yet. I think they've been given a directive, a request. I think we'll do that. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm gonna entertain a motion for adjournment.
Can I give you one more piece of information?
Oh, yes.
So preschool, just a real quick update, 30 seconds. The information about application went out today. And we did a blast that, so we put it out in social media earlier, and then a blast went out at 5 o'clock. And already we have
14 applications.
Wow. Less than 24 hours. Wow, that's exciting.
And that's all I have for you.
Now, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
So, Mrs. Turks, is it a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. McFall, all those in favor, signify by raising your hand. And that motion passes, we're adjourned, but the board member has things to sign.
Yes.
The secretary has a lot.
Please don't leave without signing when I.
Yes, there's a lot to sign.
Yes.
Thank you for bearing with us. All of you.
Isn't that crazy?
Wait, you have fun?
Probably.